What's up, folks? Happy Monday. Welcome back to the channel. Boozer here. Thanks for stopping by. A little late with this video since I do have to fight against time zones and all that, so that's a little bit of a West Coast content creator problem versus my European counterparts, but I am a couple hours late on this news. But I just want to run it through you guys just so everybody is informed. We do have some event news coming up for the CVC. They're mainly just progressive summoning events, so nothing too crazy, and honestly the champions in them are pretty kind of lackluster, to be honest. Not really anything you really want to go crazy over, but I want to pull up the news right here. So these are the champions that will be coming up. Keep in mind each day will have a different set of champions. So we got Kyoku, Snick Track. So for example, Kyoku right here, Shadowkin, good passive. But that's about it. I mean, she's a good defensive champion, good for clan boss and all that stuff with decreased attack, and then obviously the protection here. She's decent. We have Snick Tracks here, also pretty okay. Brings AoE decreased speed. He does bring a reflect and ally protection as well. I guess the theme is ally protector, I guess. Kira, she's part of the Mikage fusion, also very decent. These champions are very good for, like, for example, clan boss. But at the same time, they're kind of okay-ish and not super exciting, right? Like, she brings ally protection, increased defense, so 3-turn cooldown. Like, that's really solid. So after that, we have Gaeth. Gaeth is one of the newer champions. She is kind of a damage dealer, but kind of not really. Also brings a bunch of buffs as well, which can be good in like a protection set or something for Hydra. And then for the voids on day 1, we have Nekrit the Great, which is, obviously very good. Not so good now in the Narcissus meta, of course, but still a very good defensive option here. Insane passive with the big shield on your lowest HP champion when you first start the turn, which is very strong, obviously in arena. And then lastly, we have Ursula on day 1, Big Mama Barbarian, Void champion. Don't have her. She straight up mitigates. She has like a built-in like ally protection set basically in her kit. Brings a bunch of defensive and support abilities as well. So ally protection, strengthen, and a decreased crit damage, decreased speed, decreased attack, decreased defense. Very solid champion. That's day 1. I mean, none of these champions are really anything to like go crazy for, but they're very decent. Day 2, we're looking at Mishinaki, obviously one of the premier damage dealers for Hydra. Brings Hex, AoE, decreased defense, HP burn on a passive ability as well. Hits pretty hard as well. And then we're looking at Cupidus. Not so meta anymore. Still hits pretty strong on the A1. Can provide some HP burn in areas like Centranos, for example. Pairs up pretty good with Venus, and still can do some damage in Hydra. After that, we have Herndig. Herndig's very strong against mainly like Dark Fae because of his turn meter drop. Also brings AoE decreased defense. He actually hits pretty good. His multipliers are pretty strong, but his base attack is really low. That's kind of like the problem with him. But his defense is really strong for like an attack-based damage dealer. It's kind of interesting. He hits decent. He has extra turn mechanic on his A1 as well. And he brings, some debuffs. But yeah, not the premier damage dealer, but very good for his other effects in his kit. After that, we have Walking Tomb Drang, which was an O fusion. Very solid champion, used in a lot of applications where, you need the HP burn to not be resisted, for example. In this case, his HP burn cannot be resisted. You don't need to build him with accuracy, so it's actually really good. You can build him pretty tanky and stuff like that. After that, we're looking at Riho, part of the first voids on day 2. So Riho Bone Spear from Shadowkin. Cool champ, was a guaranteed void legendary at one point. I think she was the first one. She was probably the first one at like 90 voids. Obviously brings all the debuffs under the sun in one move, 3-turn cooldown, and a 3-turn cooldown cleanse and a heal. Very good ability. She hits pretty hard on this A2 as well. Cool passive as well, makes her basically transfer back the first debuff she gets, which is pretty good. Good champ. And then lastly, we have Tunisia, which is the Fox, the Fire Fox here. Good champ. AoE HP burn. AoE HP burn with the stun. She hits pretty decently hard as well. Base attack not super high, but she hit okay. Yeah, good champ overall. I mean, she can bring some damage. She can actually bypass the poison head cloud. I don't know how that works, but yeah, she can actually bypass it, which is pretty cool. And she is the Marius Empowerment Champion. So, I mean, I have one. I don't know if I would like ever like throw her into Marius, but because she's a good champ, and I don't really think like throwing her away into Marius that makes sense. But yeah, it's an option for sure. All right, so that is going to be what's happening for CVC. And if you guys don't know, I will be streaming CVC. It is Personal Reward CVC coming up. So we will be doing the stream shortly after it starts. So if you guys are interested in that, make sure you guys swing by YouTube and hop on by for the stream. Let's talk about the juicy bit, that bit of news that happened today. So basically, Plarium had a little bit of an oopsie daisies today. And they released a little bit of, a little bit of visuals and advertising material on their Facebook. And, like they showed this image here, and they're saying like, they gave the kits on 4 of the champions. But actually, when they first posted it, they actually had 5 champions here. And people were quick enough to deduce that one of the champions was not correctly here, and then they deduced that this one champion here, this middle champion, was actually the one that was missing. Eventually, Plarium actually pulled that kit from this posting, and we actually have that kit right here. And this is actually most likely going to be the upcoming fusion. It is an Oktoberfest themed fusion, which aligns perfectly with the upcoming fusion date that I was speculating on, which would be basically right after the Thor fusion, which would be October 3rd. October 3rd lines up perfectly with Oktoberfest, and it lines up perfectly with the end of the Thor Titan event, and then lines up right away. Basically, this gives us no time for any kind of, restocking or anything like that. And keep this in mind, guys, this does not mean it's the Halloween event. I speculate that the Halloween fusion will land right here on the 31st of October. Every Halloween fusion, they always run it super late in October. It's not like the Halloween fusion ends on the 31st. It usually starts near the end. So my guess is that it lands on the 31st this year, perfectly in time for Halloween. This fusion for Brugard, my expectation is it starts on the 3rd, and then it'll probably end on the 17th or 18th. It gives us a couple days break, and then maybe 1 week of something. This might even be like the Freya deck of fate if Freya doesn't show up this week, just because we have a little bit of a lull here just before we start into the next fusion, the Halloween fusion. But that's going to be my guess. I mean, you never know. Halloween fusion maybe starts on the 24th, giving us no breaks in between. But let's jump into the kit for this guy, Brugard Jeroboam. I'm just going to call him Brugard. He's a Force Affinity Ogryn Tribe defense-based champion. If this is going to be the proposed next fusion, it makes sense to me, and it is Oktoberfest themed. Just check out his kit here: Stout Smash, A1, attack one enemy twice, has a 35% chance, books up to 50% chance to decrease the cooldown of random ally skill by one turn. If an ally has their skill decreased, also fills that ally's turn meter by 10%. So 10% is a relatively small turn meter boost, up to 50% chance of reducing the cooldown by 1 turn. So it's a double hit. So 50% twice, 75% chance is a very high percentage chance of reducing somebody's cooldown by 1 turn. Keep in mind there's other champions, like for example, hopping over to Ancora here. Ancora has a similar move on the A1, has a 30% chance, books up to 50% chance. But it's a 2-turn. It's a 2-turn decreased cooldown. So it's a 50% chance once versus a 75% chance at 1 turn. Sorry, it's a 50% chance at 2 turn or a 75% chance at a 1 turn with a 10% turn meter fill. So we kind of have champions with like this ability already. So for example, Sylvan Watchers. You also have champions like Grand Oak Podrick here with a similar ability here. This one is 25 to 50% chance at 2 turns. So like I said, like you can have a 2-turn reduction or a 1-turn reduction with a higher rate. So in this case, Brugard here has the higher percentage chance of landing it with a lower, lower duration decrease. So either way, it seems like a pretty fair A1. I've underestimated A1s like this in the past. So I will give this guy the benefit of the doubt that his A1 probably is going to be decently impactful, especially with a 75% chance of it landing. It's probably going to land pretty frequently, even though it's only one turn. Still very, very solid. A2, this rounds on me. So here comes like, the alcohol, the boozing theme, right? So stout smash, obviously stout, and then this rounds on me. Oktoberfest for sure, right, guys? 3-turn cooldown, fully booked, removes all debuffs from all allies. That's solid. Heals all allies by 50% of this champion's max HP. Also heals them. Heals each ally by an extra 2% for each debuff removed this way. So the way I see this is this part of this ability is very similar to Riho Bone Spear, where she gives you like a flat heal, and then she increases the heal for each debuff removed. Brugard here actually also places an additional shield on you for 15% of his max HP, which is good because then you can control the size of the shield and all that. 4 books in here, down to a 3-turn cooldown. I think it's a solid ability. Too bad no block debuffs, but otherwise very, very solid. His A3, Last Orders. 100% chance when fully booked of increasing the duration of all enemy debuffs. So you can extend like poisons, block buffs, hacks, all that stuff. Cool stuff, right? And then also increases your buffs by 1 turn. Any kind of buff extension is going to be pretty decent. We've been seeing that, obviously Wixwell. So yeah, champions like that have found their ways into, many different situations where it can be pretty good. Also has a turn meter fill by 20%. I think the biggest problem with this move is that it's a 4-turn cooldown. It probably should be a 3-turn cooldown. Considering that it doesn't really do anything else. It's a turn meter fill with it's a down on duration. Sorry, it's an up on duration. It's an up on enemy debuff duration, and then it's an up on your buff duration. Yeah, I mean, you'll probably likely be using this as a turn meter boost most of the time. I don't know, turn meter, I guess a buff extension is decent, but it should probably be on a 3-turn cooldown, to be honest. It really kind of hurts his kit that it's a 4-turn. His passive ability is actually quite interesting. Turn meter effect reduction is reduced against him by 50%. So any kind of turn meter reduction effects on him gets reduced by 50%. We've seen this kind of ability before in a couple of champions now. The ones that come to mind for me would be like Kaja to Rai. She has a kind of a similar passive here. Turn meter reduction effects are decreased by 50% when used against this champion. Basically identical to this new guy, right? To this new guy, it's basically identical. Second part of his passive also fills his champion turn meter by 20% whenever any kind of hard CC lands on him or an ally, which is pretty good, right? Because you can get 20% for each ally getting hard CC'd. If there are multiple champions of this skill, only triggers once. So that refers to like multiple Brugards, right? But if you have a whole team of guys getting stunned or CC'd, then he's going to get all that turn meter, which is pretty good. And then the active effect is whenever hard CC is removed or expires on an ally, fills this turn meter by 20%. If there are multiple champions on the blah blah blah, right? So that's actually pretty good too. So the best thing about this is like when your team gets hard CC'd, he will get turn meter and then be able to cleanse. That's kind of like the idea, right? The unfortunate part is that this ability doesn't place block debuffs, which means that your team can get hard CC'd again. But I guess it kind of plays into his kit that it doesn't have block debuffs so that his passive can continually go off, I guess. It kind of sucks that this active ability, is on a 2-turn cooldown when fully booked. His passive ability, passive turn meter gain from your team getting CC'd. I mean, I guess that's kind of good, but eventually you're going to run out of, cleanses for your team. And then you're kind of just, sitting ducks, right? So maybe if he had something else to protect his team, like he could be like a cleanser, maybe he places unkillable on his team, maybe that can allow your team to recover. That might be a better part for him, better part of his kit. Maybe makes more sense. The fact that he has this last orders, Like the fact that he has this last order as A3, it doesn't really fit with his kit that well, in my opinion. Like if he had another A3 and it said, I don't know, I'm just gonna speculate and like just say like, oh, it changes A3 to like, you know, all night long or something, you know, like call it all night long and then make it so that it's a sick, you know, like make it so that he places unkillable on his team or something, you know, just make his team super, like give them the ability to survive getting hit or recovered again, because the way they're going to survive is this shield, right? But they can be CC'd again. So lasting orders, last order just doesn't feel like it's a strong enough recovery mechanism. Because first you have a shield, it just doesn't feel like it's strong enough. 4-turn cooldown as well. Turn meter boost, fine, it's decent, but it just doesn't feel strong enough to me. Lastly, he does have a pretty good aura here, 60 accuracy in all battles. Not crazy, but it's decent. Overall, I think it's a decent champion. Obviously, 3-turn cleanse with the heal and then the shield, very good for survivability. A1, we can never underestimate this type of ability. It's very, very good in lots of applications, especially for Hydra. I think this champion is probably pretty decent in Hydra. The passive definitely screams against Arman's. Arman's will CC your whole team, boosting his turn meter. He's immune to the, not immune, but he's 50%, you know, strong, 50% reduction against the turn meter steal. And then he does gain turn meter himself to help counter the stuns placed by Arman's, for example. So he is kind of at a counter. He is kind of like a way to deal with it. But honestly, I don't really see him being strong enough to go up against Arman's. He might be good enough maybe in a specific team. He might actually be good enough in, like, for example, like an Ogryn only team for Siege. He might actually be pretty strong there, to be honest, because then he does bring a good amount of support. Unfortunately, like I said, he needed something else. I feel like he needed something else just to help your team recover a little bit better. But overall, I think he's a decent champion. I don't think he's going to light anybody's, you know, he's not going to light anybody's account on fire. But he's a decent champion. We'll have to see how he plays in testing and all that stuff. Maybe he impresses. Maybe he's actually a really good Arman's type of counter. But I feel like even if Arman's is able to steal most of the turn meter from the enemy team, he's still going to be able to do, you know, just do his chaos. And it's just going to be really, really nasty. And I don't think this guy is going to be enough of an answer to deal with just one Arman's. So yeah, that's going to be my initial thoughts on this guy. Like I said, we'll have to play test him first, further, and then talk about him more. I'm fairly certain this is going to be our next fusion, guys. The dates line up perfectly. Oktoberfest fusion. And then it also lines up that it gives us enough time to finish this fusion off and then have at the end of month, Halloween day, Halloween fusion. That's just, you know, my speculation, but it makes total sense to me. Anyways, guys, that's going to be it for the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys learned something. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think about Brugard Jurobal Boam here. Like I said, his kit looks fine. He looks like a decent champion. Nothing insane. Maybe it's a skippable champion for you, depending on your progress and what kind of resources you have. But yeah, I think he's going to be fine. A decent champion, just nothing insane. But yeah, let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Do you guys have any ideas on how to use this champion? Where do you think you guys think he will be very useful in? What do you guys think is a good build for him, actually? Maybe he's super fast, super sonic, I think. He doesn't look like he needs anything too specific. Maybe, you know, you can kit him out in many different ways. But yeah, looks like an okay champion, but we'll have to see after some play testing. Anyways, guys, thanks for your time. Appreciate you guys as always. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.